My dad slept with my fiancée and got her pregnant, and now they expect me to raise the child. I thought I had lost everything when my mother died. I was wrong. I did not know then that the real hell is not loss, but betrayal, especially betrayal from those you love the most. My name is Alex. I am 30 years old. I live in Denver, and until recently, I had what seemed like a pretty normal life. A good job in IT, a cozy apartment, a dog named Rex, and, most importantly, Katie. We were together for 3 years, and I was already planning to propose to her when my father, John, moved in with me after divorcing my stepmother. My father is a charismatic man. He's the kind of guy who walks into a room and immediately draws all the attention to himself. With whiskey in hand, jokes about politics, and memories of the good old days, he was the life of the party. But to me, he was just a dad. A little broken, a little tired, but still my hero. When I told him I was planning to marry Katie, he just smiled. "She's a good girl, son. Try not to screw it up like I did." I didn't know at the time that he had already messed up. I should have noticed it sooner. The looks, the casual, too frequent laughs, the way she started dressing a little different when he was around. But hindsight's a bitch, and love makes you blind. Or stupid. Probably both. It started small. One night, I came home late from work. We were pushing a major update for one of our clients, and I hadn't slept properly in days. I walked into the apartment, and there they were, Dad and Caitlin, sitting too close on the couch. Wine glasses on the table, half-empty bottle between them, some indie band playing on the speaker that neither of them listened to before. They jumped apart when they saw me. Not like kids caught making out, but enough for my gut to twist. I smiled. I played it off. I told myself I was being paranoid. "You okay, babe?" she asked, standing up too fast. "Just tired," I muttered. My dad grinned like nothing was off. Like I hadn't just walked into something that smelled wrong. "We were just watching that docuseries you like, the one about serial killers," he said like that made it better. The thing is, I did like that show. But not with him. That was our thing. Mine and Caitlin's. Something about seeing him intrude on that made something primal in me stir. But again, I brushed it off. I shouldn't have. There's always one night, the pivot. The moment you don't realize is a moment until it punches you in the gut weeks later. For me, it was a Friday. I came home early. Wanted to surprise Caitlin with takeout from her favorite Thai place, and maybe a bottle of that overpriced Malbec she pretended not to like but always finished. I had plans to finally propose that weekend. I bought the ring 3 weeks earlier, hidden it in my sock drawer like an amateur. I remember opening the door and hearing music. Her favorite playlist. Marvin Gaye, Sod, that kind of vibe. The apartment was dark except for the flicker of candlelight. My heart did this stupid little skip. I thought she's surprising me instead. I smiled, walked into the living room. No one there. But then I heard it, laughter, coming from the hallway. From my bedroom. Their laughter. The tray with the food hit the ground. I didn't even hear the crash. My ears were ringing too loud. I walked down the hall, slow, like in a dream you can't wake up from. The door was cracked. They didn't hear me. I saw enough. Too much. Her hair down, his shirt on her, both of them tangled in sheets that I'd picked out. My world went silent, then exploded in static. I didn't go in. I didn't yell. I just left. I drove for hours. Slept in the car in some Walmart parking lot outside Boulder. I didn't cry. I didn't feel anything at all. I guess part of me died that night. I didn't go home for 2 days. I stayed at a motel off I-70, the kind with buzzing neon signs and sheets that smelled like bleach and cigarettes. I barely slept. I couldn't eat. All I did was replay it. The laughter, the candlelight, the way they looked so comfortable together. Like this wasn't the first time. Like I was the one who was trespassing in my own life. When I finally walked back into that apartment, I didn't recognize the air. Caitlin was sitting at the kitchen table, pale, eyes swollen, face a mixture of panic and guilt, and some weird, unreadable emotion I didn't want to analyze. My dad was standing by the window, sipping coffee like it was any other morning. He looked at me, not with shame, not even regret, just resignation. "Alex, let's talk." I said nothing, just stared. Caitlin stood, voice trembling. "Please, it happened. It wasn't supposed to." I was drunk. He was drunk. We didn't plan this. I laughed. Loud, bitter, sharp. Oh, so it was just a drunk accident? Like tripping and falling onto his. Don't, my dad cut in, finally sounding like he remembered I was his son. I turned to him. I hadn't hit anyone in years, but my fist clenched so tight I thought I'd break skin. You were supposed to be my father, not my competition. He didn't flinch. Caitlin was crying now. Real tears. I hated how much I still cared that she was crying. And then she dropped it, like a bomb dropped without warning. I'm pregnant. Everything stopped. 3 words. That's all it took to turn a betrayal into a nightmare. She said it like she was confessing to a priest, hoping for absolution. I'm pregnant. Time didn't stop. That's a lie people tell to dramatize trauma. What actually happens is worse. The world keeps going while you're the one frozen, trying to make sense of how the hell it got this far. I didn't say anything for a long time. Caitlin's hand hovered over her stomach like a reflex, like she was already protecting what was inside. My father, my own father, looked at me the way a man might look at a wild animal, unsure whether to soothe it or run. I finally spoke. Is it mine? The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. She didn't even try to lie. I don't know, she whispered. That broke something in me. You know those moments that divide your life into before and after? This was that. So what now? I asked numb. My dad stepped forward. We didn't mean for this to happen. We weren't trying to hurt you. I laughed again. I was starting to hate that sound coming from my own mouth. You slept with a woman I was going to marry. You might have knocked her up. But yeah, sure, you weren't trying to hurt me. Caitlin reached out. I stepped back. Don't. They stood there like children who'd broken a vase and were waiting for scolding. Except it wasn't a vase. It was my life. My future. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed the ring box from the drawer, and stared at it one last time before tossing in the trash. Then I packed a bag and left. No dramatics. No threats. Just gone. They didn't stop me. I spent the next 6 months in a different city, under a different name, metaphorically anyway. I crashed on my buddy Marco's couch in Seattle. He didn't ask questions. Just handed me a beer, said, stay as long as you need, and let me be. That's the kind of friend you don't earn. You inherit them by some cosmic grace. I got a job at a mid-sized software firm that didn't ask much of me. I came in, I coded, I left. Nobody asked why a guy with a near-senior position in Denver was suddenly answering tech tickets in Washington. I kept my head down, lived in a fog of bad TV, microwave burritos, and cold showers. And then, out of nowhere, I got a text. From Caitlin. The baby's here. It's a boy. Attached was a photo. I shouldn't have opened it. I knew I shouldn't, but I did. He had her eyes, my dad's jawline, and a tiny tuft of jet black hair that could have come from either of us. There was no way to know, and yet, I felt it in my gut. That kid might be mine, and that thought ripped me in half. She sent another message, maybe a minute later. He deserves to know you. The rage came back, but it didn't feel hot anymore. It was ice. Sharp. Quiet. Focused. She wanted me to be part of this child's life. A child born of betrayal, raised in a house built on ashes. My father was apparently still around. No one used the word together, but I wasn't stupid. And yet, a darker question began to haunt me. What if she was right? What if I was that boy's father? Could I really just leave him? I didn't respond to her text. Not right away, but I couldn't stop thinking about that kid. Every night, I saw him when I closed my eyes. I saw him in strangers' faces on the street. I saw him in my own damn reflection. So I did what I swore I wouldn't. I came back. Not to move in. Not to forgive. Just to know. We met in a coffee shop. Neutral ground. She was thinner, quieter, eyes ringed with exhaustion and something deeper. Shame, maybe. The baby wasn't with her. Where is he? I asked. With your dad. I bit down so hard I felt my molars grind. Let's cut the crap, I said. I want a paternity test. She didn't argue. She just nodded, reached into her bag, and pulled out an envelope. I already did it. I froze. You what? I needed to know too, Alex. I sent in samples. I did the whole thing. I took the envelope with shaking hands. My name wasn't even on the label. It was my dad's. I opened it. Read it. Then read it again. Probability of paternity, 0%. Not mine. His. Something in my chest cracked open. And then silence. She was crying again. I wasn't. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel anything. I stood. Tell him, I said congratulations. Alex. No. Don't. She reached out. I stepped back again. He's your problem now. And I walked out. I thought walking away would be the hard part. It wasn't. The hard part was realizing no one came after me. Not her. Not him. I waited a week then, too. Thought maybe someone would show up at my door, call, text, something. But silence isn't just absence. It's a message. They were too busy playing house. I went back to Seattle. Got a new apartment. Finally stopped crashing at Marco's. Bought furniture that didn't remind me of anything. Blocked Caitlin's number. Changed mine just to be safe. And still, I check her Instagram. She'd gone private, of course, but her profile picture was enough. Her holding the baby, wrapped in a blue blanket, smiling like everything was fine. And maybe it was for them. But here's the thing no one tells you about being betrayed. It doesn't end with forgiveness or forgetting. It ends with acceptance. I had to accept that my father chose her, that she let him, that the life I was building, the one I was sure of, wasn't mine to begin with. Just an illusion, a borrowed dream. So I started over for real this time. New job, new routines, new rules. Rule number 1, no dating for a year. Rule number 2, therapy twice a week, no skipping. Rule number 3, never, never ignore your gut again. It wasn't cinematic. It wasn't noble. But it was real. Because healing doesn't look like walking into the sunset. It looks like sitting on the floor of your one-bedroom apartment, eating Chinese takeout alone, and not thinking about what they're doing without you. It looks like surviving. It had been nearly a year. I wasn't happy exactly, but I was stable. And sometimes, after what I'd been through, stable felt like a luxury. I just gotten back from therapy. My apartment was clean, my fridge wasn't empty, and I had no plans except watching a documentary about people who live off-grid in Alaska. It felt good, quiet. Then came a knock. 3 slow taps on the door. Nothing urgent, just steady. I opened it without looking through the peephole. Big mistake. It was him, my dad. Older somehow, tired, dressed like he'd come from church or a funeral, black button-down, slacks, no jacket. He held something in his hands, a photo of a kid. He held it out like a peace offering, like that little face could erase everything he'd done. I didn't take it. I shouldn't have come, he said, voice raspier than I remembered. But I didn't know who else to talk to. I folded my arms, said nothing. He looked down. Caitlin left, took the baby. I don't know where they are. That hit different. You expecting sympathy? I asked finally. No, I deserve none. Correct. He nodded, held the photo tighter. He's not mine either. Silence. He looked up, eyes bloodshot. I took a second test. Paid out of pocket. Didn't tell her. He held out a different envelope this time. I took it. I don't know why. Opened it. Probability of paternity, 0%. Not his. I sat down. I didn't tell him to leave, because suddenly, the story wasn't over. It had just changed shape. We sat in silence for a long time. The envelope with the DNA results lay open on the table between us, like a weapon neither of us knew how to disarm. Not his. Not mine. So whose? My dad ran a hand through his hair, grayer than I remembered. He looked older than he should have, like the weight of what he'd done had finally started carving into him. She told me she only ever slept with the 2 of us. I laughed bitterly. Yeah, because she's such a pillar of honesty. He flinched, but didn't argue. He sipped from the coffee I poured him without asking, staring at the wall like it held answers. You think she was lying about the number? I shrugged. I think she lied about everything. I think you believed her because you wanted to. He nodded slowly. I did. God help me, I did. Then he looked up. I need your help, Alex. And I almost kicked him out right then. But I didn't, because I realized something, maybe for the first time since this whole thing began. He was just as lost as I was. Sure, he was a bastard for what he did, but he'd also been used, just like me. Maybe not in the same way, but damn close. You want to find her? I asked. He nodded. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. Instead, I asked, you got any idea who else she was seeing? He pulled out a phone, opened her old Instagram. Scrolled to a picture I hadn't seen before. A man in the background. Half his face cut off, but familiar. Very familiar. My jaw clenched. No way, I whispered. My dad looked at me, confused. I zoomed in. That's Brian. Who? My best man. Brian and I met in college. Roommates freshman year, best friends by sophomore. We'd gone through everything together. Hangovers, heartbreaks, finals, and job hunts. He helped me move into that first apartment with Caitlin. Hell, he introduced us. I trusted him like a brother, which made what I was now thinking, what I was seeing, almost physically painful. I took the phone from my dad's hands, studying the image. There was no mistaking it now. That was Brian, standing blurry in the background of Caitlin's photo, smiling at her like she was the prize he'd been keeping secret. You sure? My dad asked. I didn't answer. Instead, I texted Brian. You in town? He responded in less than a minute. Yeah. What's up? What's up? You tell me, man. I invited him to grab a drink. Neutral ground. Somewhere public. I didn't trust myself alone with him just yet. We met at this dim, wood panel bar we used to hit up back when everything felt simple. He walked in like nothing had changed. That same crooked grin, backwards cap, jeans too clean to be honest. Dude, it's been forever, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. I didn't smile. I slid my phone across the table. The photo. He stopped. Grin cracked. Where'd you get that? Answer the question. His eyes flicked down, then away. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Jesus. So it did happen? He nodded. Slowly. When? He hesitated. Couple times. Back when you and Caitlin were rocky. We weren't rocky. He looked genuinely sad. She said you were pulling away. That you were obsessed with work. That you weren't there. That old ache bubbled up. But this time, it wasn't sadness. It was rage. So you stepped in? I didn't plan it, man. I swear. She came on to me. And then, we didn't stop. He looked down. I think the baby might be mine. Brian didn't cry. He didn't beg. He just looked like someone who finally realized the party was over and the bill had been on the table for a long time. I didn't know she was pregnant until months later, he said. I didn't say anything. She didn't even tell me directly. I found out through her cousin on Instagram. I sat still, watching the man I once called a brother unravel across a sticky bar table. Why didn't you come clean earlier? He sighed. Because I was a coward. Because I didn't want to lose you. Because I figured if the baby wasn't mine, it didn't matter. But it might be yours? He nodded. I did a test last week. That made my eyebrows raise. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded slip of paper. This was becoming a pattern. He slid it over. 99.98%. That was it. End of the line. I stared at the number until it blurred. So after everything, after Caitlin's betrayal, my dad's betrayal, the real father turned out to be the friend I trusted more than anyone. I stood. He did too. I'm sorry, he said. I know that doesn't fix a damn thing, but I am. I nodded once. You're right. It doesn't. Then I walked out. He didn't follow. I walked until my legs hurt. No destination. No plan. Just forward. The streets blurred. Neon signs, honking cars, laughter from patios, all white noise. Inside, it was just fire and broken glass. Brian, the guy who'd held my mother's hand at her funeral, who'd helped me pick out the engagement ring, the guy who called me brother more times than I could count. That guy was the father of the child who nearly became mine. I didn't know what to do with that. Couldn't punch it. Couldn't fix it. Couldn't even cry. So I went to the only place I hadn't burned yet, my therapist's office. It was late. She wasn't there. But I left a voicemail. A long one. I told her everything. How love turned into betrayal, then into obsession, then into emptiness. How I'd been so desperate for answers that I lost the question. And at the end, I said something I hadn't said out loud before. I forgive them, but I'm not going back. It wasn't a cinematic moment. No music swelled. No weight lifted. But it was real. That night, I lit a fire in my fireplace. Tossed every photo, every letter, every memory printed on paper. And I watched it all turn to smoke. 6 years later, I live in Portland now. The rain suits me. The quiet. I run a small web design business out of a second-floor office that smells like cedar and coffee. I've got a rescue dog named Toby who hates squirrels and sleeps like a rock. Most days I'm okay. Not happy. Not sad. Just alive in a clean, calm rhythm. Then he knocked. Not metaphorically this time, a literal knock. On my office door. I looked up from my screen, half expecting a client who'd missed their appointment. Instead, I saw a kid, maybe 5 or 6. Big brown eyes, jet black hair, holding the hand of someone I hadn't seen in years. Brian. Older. Still wiry, still smiling like he was trying too hard. "Hey," he said, voice low. I didn't respond. He motioned to the boy. "This is Liam. He wanted to meet you." The kid looked up at me with a smile that broke something in my chest. And then he said the words that I still hear sometimes when I can't sleep. "Are you the guy they used to tell stories about?" My almost dad. I sat down. Hard. Brian crouched beside him. I told him the truth. Not everything. Just enough. I nodded slowly, still trying to breathe. Liam walked over and handed me something, a picture he'd drawn. Stick figures. A tall man, a kid, and a dog. Underneath it, in shaky letters, me and my other dad. That was the moment I realized I wasn't done with this story. I was just in a different chapter. I kept the drawing, pinned it right above my desk, next to a faded sticky note that says keep showing up. A relic from therapy, back when I needed reminders just to leave bed. Liam came back the next week, with Brian again. This time I was ready. We walked to a park nearby, threw a frisbee, talked about dinosaurs, ate hot dogs from a cart that made the best chili in the city. He called me Alex, not Dad, but there was something natural about it. The third visit, it was just the two of us. Brian dropped him off, eyes heavy with whatever guilt he still carried. I didn't ask questions. Liam sat on my couch, legs dangling. "Can I come again?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Anytime." That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about everything that could go wrong. Boundaries, confusion, old wounds. But I also thought about everything that already went wrong, and how this, somehow, didn't feel like one more mistake. It felt like redemption, like healing with smaller hands. We didn't become a family overnight. There was no magical reset button, just slow Saturdays, books and pancakes, the sound of laughter in a home that used to echo. Caitlin never reached out. I found out through Brian she'd moved overseas, remarried, started over. That chapter was closed. But Liam? Liam was still writing his. And maybe I didn't get to be his first dad, but I could be the one who showed up. Every time. 15 years later. Liam's 18 now. He's taller than me. Voice deeper. Smarter too. The kind of kid who reads philosophy and writes code in his spare time. He lives with his dad, Brian, but we still see each other every few weeks. Sometimes more. Sometimes less. We don't talk about the past much. There's an understanding between us. A bond built on years of small moments, not big ones. A couple months ago, I got a letter in the mail. Real paper. Real ink. From Liam. He didn't text me. Didn't email. He wrote, "Dear Alex, I'm writing this because I'm leaving for college next week, and I don't know if I'll be any good at saying this in person. Thank you. Not just for the park days and movie nights. Not just for the talks when I was scared, or confused, or angry, but for sticking around. You didn't have to. You had every reason to hate everything that brought me into this world. But you chose not to. You chose me. You never called yourself my dad. You didn't need to. You were there. And that meant more to me than biology ever could. I love you, man. You're almost dad. My always friend, Liam." I folded the letter and cried for the first time in years. Not because I was sad, because somewhere in the chaos, I had done one thing right.